What is the deal, beautiful people? It's your boy Ramon, Lifestyles Defined. We adjust my Microsoft here. That's some fanboy shit. Microphone. Welcome to another episode of AMA, where you ask us anything and we do the homework and we answer your question in a video coming up. Today's question comes from, he has a few questions actually, Andreas Lenac. I hope I didn't butcher your name. He says, hey dude, amazing review. Thank you, sir. Finally, someone who feels the same way about Microsoft and Windows Phone as I do. And he goes, how long is the longest shutter speed option on the Lumia 950 XL? And of course, because the 950 has the same camera, this question applies to both. The shutter speed can be open for a maximum of 4 seconds. And he says, I really want to do some, I want to try some light painting and nighttime photography. So 4 seconds is not long enough for you to do light painting. I think you need at least a 10-second shutter speed. So that's interesting. No, you will not be able to do light painting with this guy, but you will be able to do some nighttime photography because of the one. It's a 1.9 rated aperture, which is pretty wide, and it's also got a fair bit of intelligent optical image stabilization. So if you've been looking in the reviews, if you saw the reviews, so you've seen some shots, even if you follow me on Instagram, this guy gets to work at night and it doesn't really require much. I would suggest a tripod though, and get you just something that you can secure it in and just let it sit and let it do its thing. He then asks, also, taking pictures in the RAW format means it saves it in a RAW format too? TIFF or something. So he's asking what RAW format. It's a standard. Well, I can't even say standard because I've seen so many. Sony uses ARW, Canon, I'm not sure what Nikon uses, some of the other guys, and this phone uses a DNG. TIFF is not considered. Is it considered a RAW format? I think TIFF is a format that has the capability to retain large amounts of detail, but I don't think it's technically under a RAW format. But it doesn't save it in TIFF. It saves it in DNG, and DNG is instantly recognizable by Photoshop and Lightroom, so on and so forth. So yeah. When you import photos to your computer, will it be full resolution? So I get what he's saying. So let me explain what happens. The camera on the 950 and the XL is actually a 20 megapixel shooter, but the image that you get and what Microsoft is actually advertising is a 16 megapixel image. So that is the concept of oversampling. So if this is 20 megapixels, you get an image that's here because it takes all of this data and then compresses it down into something like this. Now that also allows you to go in and crop individual sections of that image and then recompile the data and come out with a very sharp image. So yes, when you pull that raw file over to your PC in Lightroom or Photoshop, you're getting that full 20 megapixel image, which means you're also getting a lot of the downfalls, right? You see a crap ton of noise and you see what's in focus, what's not in focus. So, you know, if you're doing that type of serious editing, which is what I do, which is why the pictures look amazing, is because you know how to clean images up. So you'll be okay. And lastly, since rich capture is pretty much HDR, can you export individual pictures taken with rich capture? So anytime rich capture is on, it does one of two things. It's either doing it for the flash or it's doing it for the HDR, which is HDR, was it high dynamic range? And that's a technique where you take a few different exposures of a shot. So one really underexposed, it's damn near dark, then another that's nicely exposed, and another that's super blown out or high exposed, and you combine all three of those to get a really accurate representation of what the image really was. So to answer your question, yes, it actually does give you the separate raw files for each exposure. And one of the only caveats here is within the rich capture software or in the Photos app for the 950, when you take flash, when it does the same, you know, that the multiple images for the exposure, you get a slider where you can adjust the flash. When you export those images, no such thing. You know, you're just dealing with this really large, these three large overexposed, look like a flash hit someone in the face ghost shots. So, but it's not a big deal. You can get around it. I mean, you can work that out in Lightroom. You can work it out in Photoshop. But yes, and this is, you know, you'll see when I do the episode of Aperture with photography with these phones, this is my bread and butter in this technique. I actually use the multiple images from Rich Capture to compile the one image, and then I get the editing on that. So I think that's dope, and this continues to show a lot of that Nokia pedigree where they knew what they were doing in terms of photography and videography and audio. They really paid attention to the small stuff, and this is what I like. Also, a small little tidbit that I noticed before, I don't know when this started happening, but I remember Microsoft never used to back up the raw images from the Nokias. Now with the 950, I noticed that the raw images are actually backed up on OneDrive, which is so convenient for me because I don't have to plug the phone in to get the raw anymore. I just download them from my OneDrive. And when I went back and started looking, I actually still saw some of the 1520 raw images there. So I didn't know at what point Microsoft made the switch, but it's there. Thank you for your question. I hope I was very helpful. Stay tuned for that Aperture episode where I go through photography using the 950 and the XL. This question comes from Salaar Zahid, and he says, just asking, bro, but why don't you use a full background picture instead of none? It's just that some people seeing this might think that Windows is still as boring as a solid color look. I get what you're asking, and he's referring to when I was doing a review. I don't really have a picture in the background, and Microsoft they came out with the see-through tiles and allow you to set opacity on an image in the background. I'm from the old school, man. I don't. Things are. I would flatter myself and say I have a very graphic intensive eye, and to me, I don't like a lot of noise. I don't like a lot of things in places they shouldn't be. It's a distraction for me, and it was very difficult for me to find an image that I thought worked well in a combination with 100% capacity, opacity, or 15, 20, 30, whatever. It was very hard to find something that wasn't distracting to my eye, and the live tiles and the ability to see what's going on with the flipping tile is paramount for me. That's what makes Windows Phone Windows Phone. So I don't want to compromise that for the sake of having one of my vanity pictures in the background, and that's mainly why I wouldn't do it. And I get what you're saying, right? I'm showcasing the review. I should have shown off that part of it. You know, my bad. Maybe I could have went into the settings and do a little something to show the folks that it can happen. But for me personally, I'm not a fan of that. I find it to be sort of distracting, which is why I don't do it. But I've seen some really dope setups, though. I've seen people with mountains and pictures of their kids, and it's okay, but it's just a personal thing for me. Thank you for your question. Hope you liked the video. Please feel free to subscribe for more. My name is Ramon. I'm out of here. Peace.